Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today into Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, using a really great summary from Bookie, we're exploring depression, a
Okay.
topic I'm sure a lot of you guys out there are familiar with. But hopefully we can uncover some new insights together today.
Yeah.
What strikes me just initially is how Haig opens up about being on the verge of suicide and just 24 years old while living on Ibiza.
Oh, wow.
It's such a stark contrast,
Yeah.
like that beautiful island and then the
Yeah.
deep, dark depression. Really throws into sharp relief how depression can hit anyone anywhere.
It really does. And what's so interesting is that Haig's experience, as jarring as it is, mirrors a much larger issue. The World Health Organization predicted that by 2020, depression would be the second leading disease globally,
Wow.
right behind heart disease.
Hmm.
So Haig's story becomes a powerful entry point into understanding the magnitude of this global health crisis.
It's a staggering statistic, and even more so when you consider the fact that 1 million people die by suicide every year because of depression. It really underscores how crucial it is to understand and address this issue.
Yeah.
Haig also touches on the genetic component, mentioning his mother's struggle with postpartum depression and his great-grandmother's suicide.
This familial history is particularly significant because it highlights the role genetics can play in an individual's susceptibility to depression. The summary even provides a really striking example with the Hemingway family.
Oh, yeah.
Ernest Hemingway, known for his strength and resilience, tragically took his own life.
Right.
But it doesn't end there. His father, brother, and sister all died by suicide.
Wow.
And a number of other family members also faced depression or alcoholism. It really challenges that misconception that depression only affects certain types of people.
It's a powerful reminder that appearances can be deceiving.
Yeah.
You never truly know what battles someone might be facing internally. And this brings up another common misunderstanding. That depression simply equals sadness. Haig doesn't shy away from describing the profound depths of his experience, comparing it to a suffocating abyss,
Oh, wow.
a feeling of his brain being on fire while his body sank.
That description is so powerful because it highlights the truly debilitating nature of depression. It goes far beyond just feeling sad.
Right.
It's an illness, not a weakness. And Haig emphasizes this by pointing out that even figures like Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill, and Sigmund Freud all grappled with this condition.
It's fascinating, though, because while Haig describes the depths of his experience so vividly, he also digs into the science behind it. He talks about the serotonin imbalance theory
Right.
and how that's been challenged over time.
Right. It's not as simple as having low serotonin levels. Researchers are uncovering the complexity of depression. And while we don't have all the answers, there are some interesting findings about the brain's reward system. One area of research focuses on anhedonia, the inability to experience pleasure. This involves the nucleus accumbens, a part of the brain associated with pleasure and reward. It seems that dysfunction in this area could contribute to the feelings of emptiness and lack of motivation that many people with depression experience.
So it seems like it's more nuanced than just one chemical being out of balance. What's intriguing to me is Haig's idea that depression might be the price of human intelligence. Do you think there's something to that? That our capacity for deep thought might actually make us more vulnerable to these kinds of struggles?
It's a really thought-provoking idea. Could it be that as humans evolved, developing this incredible ability to think critically and analyze the world around us, we also inadvertently opened ourselves up to experiencing the world's darkness more profoundly? Haig links this to the rapid pace of modern life, the constant information overload, and the relentless barrage of stimuli we face daily. Maybe our brains haven't quite adapted to handle it all.
It makes you wonder if depression is in some ways a byproduct of our evolution. What can we do to navigate it more effectively, especially in a world that often feels like it's designed to keep us on edge? Haig certainly doesn't shy away from talking about that anxiety that goes hand in hand with depression.
And he doesn't just acknowledge it, he connects it directly to the anxieties of our modern world. Concerns about aging, safety, appearance status. We're constantly bombarded with messages telling us we're not enough.
Right.
It's a recipe for heightened anxiety. And Haig argues that it's contributing to the pervasiveness of depression in our society.
He suggests slowing down is a potential solution, which sounds great in theory, but how does that actually work in practice? I mean, it's not like we can all just drop everything and retreat to a secluded cabin in the woods, right?
It's definitely not always easy, but Haig doesn't advocate for complete isolation either. He talks about incorporating practices like yoga meditation and mindful breathing. into our daily lives. Things that can help us create space for stillness and reconnect with ourselves amidst the chaos.
And those are all things anyone can do, regardless of their circumstances or resources. It seems like Haig is emphasizing the importance of finding ways to regain control in a world that often feels out of control. But ultimately, his book is about finding reasons to stay alive, right?
Right.
So what are some of the things he highlights as antidotes to that feeling of despair?
He talks a lot about the power of love as a counterforce to fear and despair. It's about finding connections, nurturing relationships, and recognizing that we're not alone in this struggle. And this leads to one of the most practical strategies. He discusses self-talk. He describes having these internal conversations with himself, almost like his present self consumed by darkness, talking to a future self who has made it through to the other side.
So it's like creating a dialogue between the despair of the present moment
Yeah,
and the hope for a future where things might feel different.
exactly.
I wonder if that approach ties into anything from a psychological perspective.
It absolutely does. Haig's self-talk strategy is very much aligned with the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. It's about challenging negative thought patterns and replacing them with more positive and realistic ones. By engaging in this dialogue with his future self, Haig is essentially reminding himself that this current pain is not the totality of his existence. There's a future out there waiting for him, and it's worth fighting for. Host. It's a powerful way of reframing your perspective. Instead of getting completely swallowed by the darkness of the present, you're holding on to that sliver of hope for a brighter future.
It sounds almost like a way of practicing self-compassion, too. Like
Yeah.
you're offering yourself the same kindness and understanding you might offer a friend going through a difficult time.
That's a great point. And it speaks to another crucial element of Haig's journey, the importance of human connection.
Hmm.
He talks about how vital it was for him to have people in his life who understood, who could offer support without judgment.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, though.
Right.
He's very open about how isolating and lonely depression can feel, even when you're surrounded by people who care.
Absolutely. It's one of the most heartbreaking aspects of this illness, the way it can create this invisible barrier between you and the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But even though it can feel impossible at times, Haig emphasizes that reaching out to others is essential. Whether it's family, friends, a therapist, or a support group, having that connection can make all the difference.
And that sense of connection seems to tie back into his point about love as an antidote to fear, doesn't it? It's like that saying, love casts out fear. But finding love, or even just allowing yourself to be loved, can be a real challenge when you're in the depths of depression.
It definitely can be. But that's where the support of others becomes so crucial.
Right.
It can help you hold on to that hope, even when you can't quite grasp it yourself.
Yeah.
And it's not just about receiving love, it's also about finding ways to give it.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Haig talks about how focusing on acts of kindness, even small ones, can help shift your perspective.
Okay.
It can be as simple as helping a stranger volunteering your time, or simply offering a listening ear to someone who needs it. These acts of giving can create a sense of purpose and connection that can be incredibly powerful when you're feeling lost and alone.
That resonates with me. I know when I'm feeling down sometimes, the best thing I can do is focus on helping someone else. It's like it takes me out of my own head for a while and reminds me that there's a bigger world out there.
Exactly. And that sense of perspective can be really grounding when you're struggling with depression. It helps you see that you're not defined by your illness, that you still have something to offer the world.
So it seems like Haig is advocating for a multifaceted approach to dealing with depression. It's not just about medication or therapy. It's about cultivating a lifestyle that supports mental well-being. He talks about the importance of slowing down, finding moments of peace, and connecting with nature.
Right. And it's interesting to consider how those practices might be connected to our modern struggles with depression. We've created this world that's constantly bombarding us with information and stimulation, and it's easy to lose touch with ourselves with the simple rhythms of nature.
It's like we're constantly plugged in,
Yeah.
constantly on alert, and our brains just aren't wired for that level of intensity.
Right.
So it makes sense that finding ways to unplug, to reconnect with nature, could be incredibly beneficial for our mental health.
It's like hitting the reset button, giving your nervous system a chance to calm down and recalibrate. And Haig doesn't just talk about this in theory. He shares specific practices he found helpful, like yoga and meditation.
And these are practices that are increasingly supported by research, too. There's growing evidence that they can have a positive impact on mood stress levels and overall well-being.
Absolutely. And while they're not a cure for depression, they can be incredibly helpful tools for managing symptoms and cultivating a greater sense of inner peace.
So it seems like Haig's message is ultimately one of hope and resilience. He's not saying that depression is easy to overcome, but he's offering a roadmap for navigating the darkness and finding reasons to keep going.
And that's what makes his book so powerful. It's not just a memoir about his struggle with depression. It's a testament to the human spirit's ability to find strength and healing, even in the face of profound adversity.
And that brings us back to the idea of finding reasons to stay alive. What stands out to you as some of the most compelling reasons Haig highlights?
I think one of the most powerful reasons is the potential for personal growth that lies on the other side of suffering.
Okay.
He talks about how going through the darkness of depression forced him to confront his deepest fears and insecurities. And in doing so, he emerged stronger and more compassionate.
He compares it to weathering a storm, doesn't he? There's a quote from Haruki Murakami that he includes. And once the storm is over, you won't remember how you made it through, how you managed to survive. You won't even be sure whether the storm is really over. But one thing is certain. When you come out of this storm, you won't be the same person who walked in. That's what this storm's all about.
It's a beautiful and profound analogy. It speaks to the transformative power of adversity. It's not about seeking out suffering, of course, but it's about recognizing that even in the darkest of times, there's an opportunity for growth and transformation.
It seems like Haig's journey is a testament to that. He didn't just survive his depression. He found a way to thrive in spite of it. He found a way to use his experience to connect with others, to offer hope and inspiration, and to advocate for greater understanding and compassion for those struggling with mental illness.
And that's ultimately what makes Reasons to Stay Alive such an important and timely book. It's a reminder that even in the midst of a global mental health crisis, there's hope, there's resilience, and there's a path towards healing and wholeness.
It's almost like he's saying that the storm itself, as challenging as it is, can be a catalyst for becoming a more authentic, more compassionate version of ourselves.
And that's a really empowering message because it shifts the focus from simply enduring the pain to recognizing the potential for growth that exists within it. It's not about glorifying suffering, but about acknowledging that sometimes the most difficult experiences can lead to the most profound transformations.
That reminds me of something you mentioned earlier about Haig's emphasis on self-talk and how that aligns with cognitive behavioral therapy. Do you think that's something anyone can benefit from, even if they're not struggling with severe depression?
Absolutely. CBT techniques like challenging negative thoughts and reframing perspectives can be helpful for anyone looking to improve their mental well-being. It's about developing a more mindful approach to your thoughts and emotions and learning to respond to them in a more constructive way.
So instead of letting those negative thoughts spiral out of control, you're essentially interrupting the pattern and choosing a different path.
Exactly, and that's where Haig's self-talk strategy comes in. By envisioning a future self who has come through the darkness, he's creating a sense of hope and reminding himself that this current pain is not permanent.
It's like planting a seed of possibility in the midst of despair. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Reasons to Stay Alive, what are some key takeaways you hope listeners will walk away with?
Well, first and foremost, I hope they gain a deeper understanding of the complexity of depression. It's not a simple case of sadness or weakness. It's a serious illness that requires compassion and support.
And it's an illness that affects millions of people worldwide, even those who may appear strong and successful on the surface. Haig's story, along with the examples of the Hemingway family and historical figures who struggled with depression, really underscores that point.
Right. It's so important to remember that you never truly know what battles someone might be facing internally. So offering kindness and understanding is crucial.
And beyond just understanding depression, I think Haig offers a message of hope and empowerment. He doesn't sugarcoat the challenges, but he also highlights the potential for healing and growth that exists within those challenges.
He provides a roadmap for navigating the darkness, emphasizing the importance of self-care connection, and finding ways to reclaim a sense of agency in a world that can often feel overwhelming.
He encourages us to slow down, to reconnect with ourselves and with nature, and to cultivate a more compassionate inner dialogue.
And ultimately, he reminds us that even in the midst of the storm, there are reasons to stay alive, reasons to hope, reasons to connect, reasons to keep fighting for a brighter future.
If this deep dive has resonated with you, I highly recommend checking out Haig's full book. It's filled with even more personal insights, practical strategies, and poignant reflections that might offer comfort and guidance on your own journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep holding on to hope.